Hello, this is Ninja Dasher U. I am on a mission to go see America and get to know the culture a little, and meanwhile deal with any missions that my sensei Silverblade gives me. I have decided to take a boat and bring my motorcycle for good land for transportation. To get to the country, like I said, I have decided to take a boat. I also need to trade places with another ninja who's gotten a little bit, he's a little bit in trouble. So, we're going to trade places, and I am going to be the ninja who's in America for a while, and he is going back to Japan. The first thing I saw when we arrived at the west coast of the United States of America was what is called the Golden Gate Bridge. Maybe it's gold because of that weird orange they painted it. The orange is supposed to make it more visible in the fog. I think because I'm a ninja, it just makes it, really visible instead of just, a little visible. But, it was also shaking around rather severely. I was wondering why. Turns out we'd arrived in a little bit, heavier wind than we maybe should have. And, well, it was affected by the wind and was blowing around. They call it a suspension bridge, which means that it's hanging off of some metal cords or something like that. I also learned that because it's affected by the wind and stuff, and it's rather shaky and whatnot, and, suspension-y and such, well, it makes it so that it can survive earthquakes easier, which I learned from the locals, that it had in the past survived, mild earthquake here or there. I was also a little bit startled to hear that they had closed the bridge for just a little bit of wobble. Well, upon being so startled about it, I asked, "Why did you close the bridge?" They just said, "Because it was shaking too much." Why would you close the bridge if it's shaking a little? It makes no sense. If it's shaking around, your opponent can't keep his footing as much. Then you win. I decided to head west, out into the desert. It's not exactly a desert, but still, it's pretty hot. So, I journeyed out on my motorcycle, creating nice little dust trails behind me, until I came to what is called the Grand Canyon. I could see why. It was very big and very deep. It was 277 miles long. There were lots and lots of fossils, too, when I looked closely. It also provided a wonderful amount of shade, which was perfect to kind of, rest up from my journey and stuff like that. It is a pretty long journey, and I didn't make too many stops. There were these gas stations, though. I had to stop there every now and then. But still, got out there. There were little holes in the mountain, too, where people had lived before. It was nice and cool inside. All stone, too. No wall hangings, though. That was too bad. No places to hide my daggers. I heard from the locals that there's this neat cavern system called the Carlsbad Caverns. Lots of caves, or so I've heard. So, I decided to head out there, once again, into the desert. Rather hot and nothing impressive from the surface, but of course, all of us know the caves are underground, not on the surface. So, I finally got to the cave, and just about when I was to go in, I will have you note that it was nighttime. I did not expect, but there were tons of bats that came flying out at me. I jumped a good foot. But then, it suddenly occurred to me that I could learn the ways of the bat here. I had learned the ways of the cougar and the puma over in the Grand Canyon, but here I could learn the way of the bat. So I said about that as well. Also, while I was here, I decided to it would be a good time to maybe, explore the cave when daytime came. Daytime because then all the bats would be sleeping. And then there'd be nothing to learn from them. So I decided to go down. I learned that there were 117 known caves in the system, but they were always coming up with more caves, so the count will probably change by the time you hear this. The tour guide was very nice, and I enjoyed the tour a lot. But unfortunately, I decided that it was time to continue my journey. So, I will not be staying very long here. I decided to head back to the Grand Canyon, and from there, continue my trip. I realized that to get from Carlsbad Caverns to the Grand Canyon would actually be backtracking. A little farther than I wanted to be backtracking if I was going to Yellowstone. So I set off north, and just turned a little bit west right at the end. It was a pretty long trip, but I made it in one piece. When I got there, I learned that Yellowstone was in a temperate climate, which was very nice compared to the hot desert. And also, I learned that it was the first national park, which was intriguing. There was lots of wildlife there, and I learned the ways of the bear and of the coyote and wolf. It was very much and very, very useful and educational. I also learned that there's the largest collections of geysers in Yellowstone, and I think I made a couple more by accident. Or my leaping and ninja moves accidentally sent me into this heavily boiling pot of hot water, then shot up into the sky and shot me with it. It was fun, but a little on the hot end. The next stop was the Black Hills. I think I got a little lost though. It didn't look half as far as I drove. I think I drove past it a couple of times. When I finally did come in, the first thing I saw was these big faces carved into a hill. I was a little shocked by this, so I asked the bystanders, and they told me that it was called Mount Rushmore. I asked what the faces were, and they said it was U.S. presidents. When I asked what the president was, well, they said, where have you been for the last 300 years? So any which way. Then I went and discovered another cave out there. It was the second longest cave in the world. It was very impressive. They called it the Jewel Cave. I did not see too many jewels though. But it's apparently the second longest cave in the world. I'll have to check that as I journey around the world. But still. I also went to this place they called Deadwood. It looked like some sort of, old town. They called it an Old West town. I said, what's that? And they said, oh dear, you really have been out of it for the past couple of years, haven't you? It was some sort of a gaming place. There were lots of people who came in, out, and looking much more not wealthy than when they went in. I learned later that it was called gambling, and that's what they indeed advertised all over. I decided that it was time to continue my journey and get away from, weird faces and other such weird things. So I targeted what is called New Orleans and decided to go visit that place. Once I got to New Orleans, I learned that one of the symbols of New Orleans is called Jackson Square in the French Quarter. I decided to go see what this was all about. When I did get there, I found that they had the oldest apartment building there, and a cathedral called St. Louis Cathedral, St. Louis Cathedral, that's what it was. And they had lots of merchants there, and a couple of museums, and some of the best restaurants I have ever seen. They had this one place called Cafe du Monde. I ordered these yummy, tasty little white powdery things, and I couldn't help it. I bought a couple more of those. I decided that my next stop would have to be the Florida Keys. This would be my last stop, as Sensei Silverblade was telling me that there were a couple of missions that I need to actually go do while I was here. So, I decided to set out. I got a little sidetracked though. I learned that there was going to be a hurricane. Unfortunately, I had already rented a boat and was halfway across the Gulf of Mexico by the time I learned this. So, I quickly turned ashore and went ashore at this weird place called Disney World. It was covered with these weird little creatures. I could not quite figure the place out. They had the weirdest things there. Besides these weird little creatures that waved at you and tried to hug you, and, these weird stories about some guy who had his head pickled, and other weird things like large metal globes and large castles and fireworks that they blew up a little close to it, and a lot of people wearing the strangest black headgear. It was not at all like my ninja mask. It was like ears or something strange. It was so weird. Fortunately, the hurricane blew past quickly, and I was able to continue my journey to the Florida Keys. I found that they had a lot of weird things that you could do there. Partially really fun things too, once you actually found out what they were. The weird one was golfing. I could not figure it out, until I figured out all you have to do is hit the ball into the hole. I rocked that game. So much fun. I also found out that you can do diving, kayaking, fishing, and boating. All very fun. Rather wet though with some of them. Especially diving. That one was very wet. I also learned that you can go and touch dolphins and turtles. That was rather interesting and rather fun. I also decided to stay in the city known as Key West while I was down there. That was where I did the golfing. So very much fun. My next stop would be Washington, D.C. I had been a little sidetracked, but I had a mission that I needed to go wrap up there, and I figured, no time like the present. That is an American term that I picked up here. So I decided to head up to D.C. When I finally did get there, I found much important artwork, they called it there. I thought it looked like nice art. They also had this wonderful little dome thing with this wonderful looking piece of art. Ah, it is too wonderful. I do not know how to describe it, that is how amazing it was. But, any which way, I knew that I had some important business to do. I also learned that the Senate and the Supreme Court were there, so that if I was caught, I would have a very hasty court trial. Probably. If I'm caught. I do not want to get caught though. It's a very important mission. I must learn if the US government is planning on nuking another one of our Japanese cities. If they are, I must neutralize the nuclear bomb. If they are not, well, I can finish my tour of America. I toured the Capitol building a little bit, did some spy work, and found out that they are not going to nuke Japan anytime soon. I was very happy to learn this. And I decided that now would be a great time to finish my journey of America. So I journeyed up to what is called New York. In New York, I found they had this place called New York City. I decided to go there to see the symbol of America, as it is so been called. I just found that it was actually called Times Square. It is very, very iconic. It has many, many, many names up on it, and these flashing billboards. A very wonderful place, honestly. But I learned they had the weirdest plans. They're going to make it so that you cannot drive your motorcycles on it. It will be pedestrian only, which would be interesting. I think it's a good idea, except for the fact that I won't be able to bring my motorcycle up there anymore. By the time you hear this, well, they will probably have already blocked it off. But still. They also call it the crossroads of the world because, well, everyone from everywhere has tried to put up a sign there, if they're a big name, that is. So I saw Toshiba, that's close to home, for me at least. I saw Coca-Cola. I decided to get the Coca-Cola while I was there. It is some sort of a fluid, not at all toxic, and very, very tasty. I am afraid I have picked up a rather bad habit of drinking them now and then. It's very tasty. That concludes my tour of North America. I have become very acquainted with the culture, I feel, and, well, you know, I've enjoyed it a lot. So, I've decided to volunteer for the next country and city and ultimately world-hopping tour mission system thing. Sensei Silverblade has decided to send me to South America next. I hope to continue this little video slideshow thing once I get there. Until then.